Was your PACT Act disability exam botched before you even walked into the examination room? A new report from the VA Inspector General suggests that for thousands of veterans, the answer is yes. Today on Vets with Benefits, we're diving into a brand new VA Office of Inspector General report exposing that medical examiners, the people who provide crucial evidence that could affect the fate of your claim, were conducting C&P exams without completing essential PACT Act training. This isn't just a paperwork error. It could cost you thousands in benefits. So if you filed a PACT Act claim, especially for a non-presumptive condition, you're going to want to hear this. On September 3rd, 2025, VA's Office of the Inspector General, also known as the OIG, released a report with a title that should grab every veteran's attention. Not all VA disability compensation examiners completed training before providing PACT Act medical opinions. This is yet another in a series of reports from the OIG that criticizes VA for its improprieties related to PACT Act claims adjudication. Now, we're going to walk through exactly what this new report means, who's affected, and most importantly, what's being done about it. But here's the bottom line up front. If you had a PACT Act exam in 2023, especially in the first half of the year, this report might affect you. Let's start with the basics. When you file a disability claim with the VA, sometimes you need what's called a compensation and pension examination. We call them C&P exams. These exams are critical. The examiner's written opinion following these exams can be determinative evidence in deciding whether or not your condition is service-connected and how much compensation you receive. According to the OIG report, over 90% of these exams are done by contractors, not VA employees. The remaining 10% or so are done by examiners within the Veterans Health Administration, also known as the VHA, who are actually VA employees. When the PACT Act became law in August of 2022, it didn't just add presumptive conditions. It changed how examiners needed to evaluate certain toxic exposure claims. So in January 2023, VA created new training for all C&P examiners. It required that VHA C&P examiners complete training by August 2023, and that contract C&P examiners complete the training by mid-February of 2023. So, what did the OIG find? Well, it found that in 2023, VA conducted about 30,000 PACT Act medical examinations for non-presumptive conditions. Next, the OIG estimated that about 8,600 of those examinations were conducted by VHA employees before they had completed their PACT Act training. That's 29%. And here's an important detail. Most of these examinations happened before August 1st of 2023. Why is that date important? Because that's when VHA had set its deadline for completing the training. The good news, for contract examiners, the numbers were much better. The OIG found that only about 860 opinions, or about 2%, were provided before training was completed. This is likely because the deadline for completing the training was much shorter than for the VHA employee examiners. Now, why should you care about this? Well, when an examiner provides a medical opinion without proper training, they might not understand the specific requirements of the PACT Act. Indeed, they might not know how to properly evaluate whether your toxic exposure is connected to your disability. And remember, these opinions are used as evidence to decide your claim. In fact, the OIG said quite bluntly, the fact remains that some examiners gave medical opinions used to decide PACT Act-related claims without receiving this specific training. Because VBA claims processors may rely on examiners' medical opinions as evidence to decide veterans' claims, when examiners provide those opinions before taking necessary training, VA risks providing claims decisions that could lead to improper payments to veterans. And by improper payments, that could mean either overpayments or underpayments. Of course, underpayments means VA is paying less compensation than the veteran deserves. So their standard of living suffers, and they may not be entitled to other benefits due to the disability being underrated. And overpayment means that VA is paying more compensation than the veteran deserves, which could result in a future reduction of benefits that the veteran and his or her family have come to rely upon. And of course, an improper examination could result in a denied claim. So, what is VA doing about this? Well, for those specific cases in the study that VA already identified as having been conducted prior to the examiner completing their training, VA needs to obtain a new medical opinion from a trained examiner and then issue a new decision if warranted. But that doesn't help every veteran. Importantly, the OIG only looked at a small subset of the 30,000 non-presumptive PACT Act examinations conducted in 2023. So that means that VA may not be proactively working to identify and fix problems with the other estimated 8,600 examinations conducted before the required training had been completed. As always, I'd like to thank Vetis Legal for its sponsorship of this podcast. If you or anyone you know needs help with their VA compensation claims, give them a call at 1-508-205-2503 or go to vetislegal.com. That's VETUSLEGAL.com. And let them know you heard about them here on the Vets with Benefits podcast. So, what should you do if you think this might affect you? First, look at when your examination was done. If it was done before August of 2023 and done by a VHA examiner, or before March 2023 by a contract examiner, your exam might have been done by someone without the proper training. Second, if so, and if your claim was denied or you received a lower rating than expected, this report could provide the grounds for requesting a review of that decision with a supplemental claim, higher-level review, or an appeal to the Board of Veterans' Appeals. Unfortunately, there may be no effective way to find out which examiners may or may not have completed their training before conducting particular examinations. But it is clear from the OIG report that VA knows this information, and so it seems likely that VA will be able to identify those examiners on a case-by-case basis and order the appropriate relief. And if you were approved, don't panic. Even if your claim was granted during the period when examiners may not have been fully trained, it's unlikely that VA will take away those benefits you've already been granted. And even if it does reduce your benefits in the future, because the award would have been made based on VA's mistake, not yours, it is unlikely that VA would require you to pay back any benefits that it erroneously awarded. And remember, you don't have to navigate this alone. You can reach out to a VA-accredited attorney, agent, or representative for assistance. Training matters. The PACT Act represented a massive expansion of benefits. This OIG report confirmed that the system isn't perfect, but it also shows that examination and testing of the system can uncover problems and help ensure you're receiving the benefits that you were promised, earned, and deserve. You know, here at Vets with Benefits, we're more than just a podcast. We're a community. We want to hear from you. Did you have a PACT Act exam in 2023? How was your experience? Drop us a comment with your questions, thoughts, and impressions. Your story might help another veteran. And as always, if you found this information valuable, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone you think might find it useful. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. As a quick reminder, yes, I am a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer unless we already agreed to work together. While the things we talk about on this podcast may be legal in nature, it is not legal advice. If you need a lawyer, you should reach out to a qualified, licensed attorney in your area. This podcast and all of its content are owned by BSCC Media, LLC. Thanks for listening.